Okay, I think it's time we will start. Okay. Oh, Om Badram Karne Bishunuyama Devaha Badram Pashe Makshabiryajatraha Sthirairangai Tuštuvagam Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddashavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Okay, so we are almost at the fag end of the first section of the third Mundaka, just two mantras, which we will see today. With that, hopefully the first section of the third Mundaka will be over. If you may recall, we had seen this mantra, Satyameva Jayate Nandritam, Satyasya Panta Vitate Devayana, Yena Kramanti Rishayo Hyapta Kamaha, Yatra Tat Satyasya Paramam Nidhanam, Satyameva Jayate Nandritam. We saw that two classes before, and we continued the discussion also. So, there is this word Satyam here. We had seen a few examples from, Ramayana and all, from Ayodhya Kanda and all that we saw. What is this Satyam? Because Satyameva Jayate is a very, very important concept. See, there are also a few other words. There is Sat. We say Sat Chit Ananda. Sat. Then there is a word Mithya. So I think we have to develop a good sense of clarity about all these words, because these are very important for us to gain a proper understanding of the Vedanta Tattva, and what we need to be doing, what is our approach. Everything for us to know properly, we need to get a clear understanding of these terms. Therefore, I thought I will spend a little bit of time. I think some of you had also asked me, so I thought why not I clarify it for the benefit of everyone. So let us first try to understand what is this Satyam and Sat, because they are so close. In a way, they are very close, but they bring two different set of meaning and understanding from a Paramarthika sense, particularly, in this path of self-evolution and all that this Upanishad is coaching us. These terms need a proper understanding. Therefore, let me, take a very favorite example, which we all of us know. And from there, we will try to deduce the correct meaning of Sat and Satyam. And then, of course, we will see the Mithya. Once we know Sat and Satyam, the word Mithya will fall in place. So, let us look at this famous example, which we are used to it. quite often in Vedanta discussion, we talk about this. The question is whether is this a snake or a rope? That is the question. Is this a snake or a rope? Right? In Vedanta, these questions are very frequently encountered. Now, if the room is very dimly lit, I have tried to represent it to the best of my ability in this picture. So if the room is very dimly lit and this object that you see here, if it is also, let us say, mildly shaking, maybe there is a wind blowing and so on, then that is a very high chance, even without the object shaking, the shape as you see here, from the door, if you see it at a distance, as I have portrayed it here, many of us may think that this is a snake. And we doubt, we seriously think this could be a snake. For all we know, it could be a snake or it could be a rope also. But certainly from the door of the room, as we see it, we start thinking maybe this is a snake, right? This is a very common experience we have. It is not something totally an unrelated experience. Sometimes we encounter these kind of things. There is something shaking, something moving. So we think, what is that? Maybe a rat is running this way, that way, something like that. We keep thinking. So the question now, see, we need to understand this snake rope problem or wonder, whatever you want to call it. So there are two things happening here. The snake in the first place latched onto the rope when it did not really exist. So the question is, how did the snake replace the rope? Because we were tense. Only a snake puts a fear in us. So therefore, if there is a fear, so there is a second point, right? This inanimate, dull and dead rope is inanimate, dull and dead. But somehow it developed a capability to generate fear in us, which is an exclusive property of the snake. So we need to now understand what is the mechanics behind it. We may be going through this experience in our life, but we don't seem to seriously analyze it very deeply. So the questions are, how did snake got itself onto a rope? We can laugh at it. After we switch on the light and all that, we may laugh at it. But the fact remains that the snake found its place in a rope. And therefore, it was able to, however inanimate that rope was, it generated enough fear in us. So this part, I want you to think through this part. And the snake rope confusion requires certain conditions for it to happen. The first condition is the room must be dimly lit. If it was pitch dark, we will know nothing. For all we know, there may be a snake. For all we know, there may be no snake also. But we may know nothing if it is pitch dark. If it is fully lit, then there is no confusion. Because the scope for confusing would not have arisen in the first place if it is fully lit. Because we know for sure, oh, there is a rope which is shaking, which looks like a snake by its very akara, by its very shape and the movement that it is creating. We will quickly come to a conclusion that, well, there isn't a snake. But then when the room is dimly lit, then only this whole thing happens, right? This is point number one. Point number two, the rope must somehow camouflage its physical structure. If it showed its rope property, this idea of snake would have never come to us. So there seems to some magic seem to work there. The so-called rope is somehow camouflaged, so that we are not really looking for a rope, but we are looking something similar to a rope. In this case, it happens to be a snake. So the ropeness is gone. We have only snakeness now. So this is the second necessary condition for this confusion to happen. Then the third condition is that a snake must somehow superimpose itself on the rope. and present an almost a realistic situation so that we take it as real. That's what happened to us. We stood at the door on seeing that something is curling there, something is shaking. There is sweat in our forehead because already the fear has come. And because the fear has come, that means the snow part of it is working. The snake part of it has already started working. And it begins to fear and take desperate steps to sort out the situation. We do all that. So this is the other issue. So all these are required. If all these are not there, then, this is not going to happen. I find that Uday Shankar is saying that his audio is not there. I am seeing that your audio is not connected. You have to connect your audio. There is, you have to connect your audio, then although you'll be muted, but your speaker will work. Or your speaker may be in a low volume. Check all that, Uday Shankar. Okay. So all these must happen. If all these happens, then, rope will become a snake. So why did I bring this example? Let us use this example to understand the concept of Sat, Satyam and Nitya. We will use this example. Then we will be able to unambiguously understand the difference between the three. So first, let us talk about Sat. Sat means existence. If I have to use an English word, nearest to that is existence, Satta. Or if I have to use another easier way to communicate, Sat is called isness. No, table is there, chair is there, camera is there, right? You have, computer is there. There is a isness. That isness creates what is called Sat. In other words, whatever we can experience through the vehicle of Kshetram, Kshetra means all these, Karmendriyas, Jnanendriyas, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara, Manas, all that which we have, and the world outside us. With this kind of a framework, whatever we can experience is called Sat. So science is actually teaching us only about Sat, about existence. In other words, another way to understand Sat is what is available to us for whatever transactions. Now, if you go back to this rope and snake example, snake has an existence. Please understand that. There is a isness of the snake. It may not be there on the rope. That's a different story. You cannot see what does not exist. We must all understand we can only experience what exists. What does not exist, we cannot experience, we cannot even make sense of it. Right? That is called non-existent. So science has disposed all non-existent as no reality, non-reality. That's what it thinks. But we don't think like that. We say, what exists? I might have seen snake ever in my lifetime. So therefore, there is the notion of isness of the snake. I would have seen a very interesting object, somewhere in a shop. So I know there is such an object that exists. So all that exists is called Sat. So in the snake and the rope example, snake exists. The existence of snake cannot be questioned. What you can question is the existence of snake in that rope. That we'll come to it later. That's not what is called Sat. Sat means the world of what exists is called Sat. So I exist, you exist, the room exists, the Mundakopanishad class exists, Practical Vedanta Samvada exists, YouTube exists, Zoom exists. I know all these are Sat for us because it comes under the banner of existence. So the snake exists, the rope exists. And such of those don't exist is non-existent. So certain things which we not even aware. Devaloka exists because for our intellect there is an idea of Devaloka, and we have comprehended it in a particular way. Rama exists, Krishna exists, etc., etc. Because I said anything you can experience through Kshetram. So I can experience Rama and Krishna through my buddhi and my chitta and my manas. I don't have to see the physical object. So like that. Such of things which you cannot do anything of that kind is called non-existent, which means it will not fit into any of these descriptions. So that is Sat. Now comes Satyam. So the question is, what is Satyam? The definition is which exists at all times unchanged. Yad rupena, yat nischitam, yan nischitam, tad rupam na vyabhicharati. That something which cannot change its lakshana. So now let's come back to the rope and the snake example. Snake is a Sat, rope is a Sat, but Satyam is only rope. Why? Because after I switch on the light, the snake disappeared. So it has changed. It was there in the past, but it is there, not there now. What is there now is not there sometime later. So our health, our physical structure, our position, our mood, our relationship, everything is not Satyam, because what existed yesterday does not exist today, and it will not exist tomorrow also. But we exist. That I don't have a doubt. That I-ness is there. That I am there, you cannot. So you alone is Sat and Satyam. Right? All those are not Satyam. They exist for some time. They are in the part of Sat, but they belong to what is called Mithya. That's where the Mithya comes. So the cause is Satyam. The effect is not Satyam. The rope is the cause. The rope is the cause for the snake. Therefore, the rope is Satyam. Whereas the effect can be Sat, because what you see is only what you can see in the domain of existence. So therefore, rope can be Sat, but it cannot be Satyam in this example. So Sat is existence, and Satyam is that which does not change. So if you take an individual like you and me, our cause is Satyam. Our effect in terms of this body, this name, this position, this job, all these are not Satyam. They all exist, but they keep changing. They are actually Mithya. So that which is not Satyam will be Mithya, which means they exist for some time, but not there. It is very illusory. So our position is illusory, I am telling you. Our respect is illusory. Our money is illusory. Our life is illusory. Our mood is illusory. Because they don't exist. They are not Satyam. They are all Satyam. So therefore, Sat is different from Satyam. So Satyam is that non-changing entity. It is the cause. So if I come back to Satyameva jayate nandritam satyasya panta vitate devayana, what it means is, if you hold on to the ultimate cause, which is the Brahman, we are all part and parcel of it. We are all only a manifestation of it in a particular way. So the two birds that we are talking about, the second bird is there. The first bird keeps changing. That's how we started this. Therefore, this is how I think we need to understand Sat, Satyam, and Mithya. So in a mirage in a desert, you see a water. That water is Sat because, there is a notion of existence of the water. But that is not Satyam, that is Mithya. Because that doesn't exist there. It appeared to exist there. When you go near it in the mirage, the water is no more. It becomes Mithya. So I think we need to understand the Sat is existence. Satyam is that unchanging part of the existence is called Satyam. And when Sat keeps changing, that becomes Mithya. That existence is very transitory, temporary, and all that. Because the snake was there, snake was not there after some time. The water was there in the mirage, after that the water is not there, and so on. So that is the Satyam. And so if you take an individual and you say Sat Chit Anandam, in that Sat is the existence is actually Satyam, because that exists forever. that Mula Bhuta Karana is the Sat, that isness, that my isness does not change, but the other forms of existence that I have all are changing. So in that sense, that Sat is a Satyam. So Atma is a Satyam in that sense of the term. So I thought I'll clarify this because a few people are asking me. So I thought I will clarify this. Anyway, we have seen this mantra last class. Na chakshusha grihyate napi. Na chakshusha grihyate napi vacha. Nanye devais tapasa karmanava. Jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha. Tatastutam pashyate nishkalam dhyayamanaha. So in this mantra, as we saw last class, the most important thing is Jnana Prasadena. Jnana Prasadena tat tataha tu tam pashyate. Nishkalam dhyayamana. So the Jnana Prasada is the most important thing because we can't see it through our indriyas. We cannot see through our eyes. We cannot experience it through our eyes and Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. It is the Jnana Prasada. Last class, if you remember, I gave a very elaborate discussion based on Shankara Bhashya. What is this Jnana Prasada? How do one get the Jnana Prasada? So I thought I wanted to tell you the Vishuddha Sattva you get only by Jnana Prasada. And Tataha, thereafter, Tam Pashyate Dishkalam Dhyayamanaha. So the Jnana Prasada is one. Why? Because you become a Vishuddha Sattva. And Tataha tu, after that, Tam Pashyate Nishkalam Dhyayamanaha. This is what we saw in the last class. The Jnana Prasadena, Chinmayananda has his own, Swami Chinmayananda has his own commentary, Swami Chinmayananda on Jnana Prasadena. He says, what is this Jnana Prasadena? How do you get it? He says, purification of the mind gained by the mind-intellect equipment, this body-mind-intellect complex, in that this mind and intellect, buddhi and chitta and manas, that antakarana. And how does you get it, the purification? He says, through a renunciation of his false values, wrong attachments, delusive vanities, and low animal instincts. If all these, if we are able to Duri kartum yadi asmabhihi shakyate, if we are able to keep it a little outside of us, then the mind gets purified. The more a mind is redeemed from its psychological aberrations, the more such a mind becomes subtle and pure. So he says that is what one should get out of Jnana Prasada. And the Jnana Prasada will, so this is the Vishuddha Sattva. In some ways, this is the definition of the Vishuddha Sattva. So this is what the last mantra, the mantra 8 said. So we'll see the next mantra. Mantra 9. Yesho nuratma chetasa veditavyo yasmin prana panchadha samvivesha praneshchittam sarvamotam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhavatyesha atma. We'll do a padacheda first. Yeshaha anuhu atma chetasa veditavyaha yasmin pranaha panchada samvivesha pranaihi chittam sarvam otam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhavati yeshaha atma. Yeshaha anuhu atma. We said anoraniyan, mahato, mahiyan, all that we saw in the earlier mantra. In fact, the earlier mantra we said brihachata divyam achintya rupam sukshmacha tat sukshmataram vibhati. Sukshmacha tat sukshmataram. It is subtlest of the subtle, right? Duratsu dure tada ihantikecha pashyatsu vihaiva nihitam guhayam. It is for the uninformed, it is too far. For those who know, it is so. So it is subtlest. So yeshaha anuhu atma, this one which is very, very subtle. Chetasa veditavyaha. This must be experienced. This must be experienced by chetasa. Chetasa here essentially means a pure mind. The contextual meaning that we have to take is that Chetas actually means, the heart, and it should be experienced in the heart. In fact, there was one mantra earlier we saw in the second Mundaka. It's all about this heart, which is the epicenter, the Garbhagraha of this. So this is what we said. We said, Manomaya Prana Sharira Neta Pratishtitone Hridayam Sannidhaya. Hridayam Sannidhaya Pratishtitaha. It is actually resident in the Hridaya. Tat Vijnanena Paripashyanti Dhiraha. Anandarupam Amritam Yad Vibhati. So this Chetasa Veditavyaha essentially is that using that pure mind, Yasmin, in that is where this heart, the epicenter is coming. Pranaha Panchada Samvivesha. Panchadha. See, in Sanskrit, when you put dha, you put dha at the end of any word, it is equivalent of what we say in English, fold. Dvidha means twofold. Tridha, threefold. Here we are saying Panchadha. Panchadha means fivefold. So pranaha yasmin panchada samvivesha. So in this body, what is this prana doing? This prana is splitting itself into fivefold. Panchada samvivesha. Okay. It if you want to know about this, there is a very beautiful description of this in Prashnopanishad, the third chapter. In the third chapter of Prashnopanishad, Pipalada was asked by one of the Sishyas, what is these pranas? And then Pipalada starts saying that prana cannot control everything on its own. Just like a king cannot control the entire country, he has to appoint assistants, ministers, heads of the departments that we do in modern organizations. That idea Pipalada gives. And he says that prana divides itself into apana, vyana, udana, samana. Right? Prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. That's how it happens. And then in that Upanishad, in that third chapter, it talks about what each one of them is doing. So that is in that particular Upanishad, you have the description of that. How this prana gets. For example, you have the samana. Samana is the digestive system in some ways. And it is the powerhouse. In some ways, that is a powerhouse. It takes all the Agni and the Jatar Agni. It takes all the food, converts it into energy and so on. So our stomach, liver, in modern science, we have to use, that's where Samana Vayu will be there. And then you have the Apana, right, which is the, the system which is downward, waste disposal. In a modern organization, you need waste disposal. Because when you operate and do things, when you use many things, wastages are being developed, So there must be some ways by which you do a wastage disposal. That is the apana. Then you have the vyana. The vyana is, it is the courier. It is the logistics and supply chain management. We have to use that kind of words that we use today. It takes that energy and that vitality to the whole, every part of the body. So that is why in the tip of the toe also you have the full sense of I-ness, because that sensation, that energy, that blood, everything is carried by this nervous system, right? So that is called, vyana. Then you have prana, apana, vyana, udhana. Udhana and prana, these are the other two. Udhana is one which is going up. Right? It is the, for our human body and all that, it is the security and control mechanism. There's a hair on your tongue. You will become very uncomfortable. You put your hand and sometimes take it out or you spit it out. If there is some foreign body that you have taken, you'll get fear immediately. You'll get fever immediately. The Udhana Vayu will start working. It is security control for us. So like this, and the prana is the main vitality, CEO. Everybody takes their order and then reports to the prana, so to speak. So the Atman manifests itself as prana. That's what this mantra is saying. The Atman itself manifests as prana, and Panchada Sambivesha, it breaks itself fivefold, and then it spreads into this whole thing. So Yasmin Pranaha Panchada Sambiveda. So it has to be Veditavya in that position, in that part of us, which is the heart. We must be able to locate and get this experience. Pranaihi Chittam Sarvam Otam Prajanam. So what is this prana doing? This prana, the Sat Chit Ananda, shows itself as a prana, the consciousness, which is what is the ultimate padartha. That is the ultimate, cause, not the effect. That manifests as prana. Pranaihi Chittam Sarvam Otam. So that consciousness pervades. Otam means pervades or spreads. Prajanam Pranaihi Chittam Sarvam Otam. So this consciousness, so that Brahman manifests itself in the form of consciousness, and it pervades your chitta, it pervades all your antakaranas, it pervades your whole body, your karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, everything. That's why it says Pranaihi Chittam Sarvam Otam Prajanam. So this mantra Pranaha Panchada Sambivesha Pranaihi Chittam Sarvamotam Prajanam. These two describe, what is it describing? It is describing our body, how the consciousness flows through all our body, and it is felt everywhere. That's why the consciousness is felt in the tip of the finger also. You are able to feel the I-ness there. How do you know? If somebody takes a pin and then prick you, a small pin and then prick you there, you suddenly feel I have been pricked. That I-ness expresses through that small prick in the tip of one corner of your jada deha. Why? Because pranaihi chittam sarvamotam prajanam. This consciousness principle, through the prana, it uses a vehicle called prana, and through that prana, it spreads everywhere. And why is all this being told? It is being told because this is where we have to look for the Brahman. Don't look outside. That is what it is trying to communicate to us. That's why he says, Yasmin pranaha panchada samvivesha, Yasmin pranaihi chittam sarvamutam prajanam. Yasmin place means in that place, in that place. It is a saptami vibhakti. In that. So in that, the prana is divided into fivefold. In that, the consciousness is pervading through everything throughout. And what is that place? That place is this body with all its this thing. In that, chetasa veditavyaha. So in that, you have to experience that Brahman chetasa with your clear mind and all that. So the Upanishad is saying, don't look for Brahman going all out the place. That's why in the previous mantra I said, Durat Sudure. If you go and then start searching elsewhere, you will spend several janmas, you will not find. You will simply not find. As I was telling you in the last class, you cannot lose your key in the room and search it in the outside because there is a tube lamp there and where light is being thrown only there. You can't do it. For time, infinite time, you will not get the key. So the same way, the Upanishad mantra is saying, this is your place. Avrita chakshuhu amritatvam ichan kaschid dhiraha. That's what in Kathopanishad says. You have to look inside. That experience you'll get only inside. And moment you look inside, the indriyas are not required. That's why he says Sukshma, Shukshma Saram, and it says you cannot see it with your eyes and so on. We saw that, last class we saw that mantra, na chakshusha grikhyate na apiva, nanye devais tapasa karmanava. That's why you have to turn in and look for it and experience it. And when will it happen? Vishuddhe. Then the last part of the mantra says, Vishuddhe vibhavati yeshaha atma. That atma is available. The atma is available for experience and knowing, whatever you want to call it, only when it is Vishuddha, Vishuddha Sattva. When it is spotless, when we are not disturbed by a lot of distractions, pleasures and pains, tensions, anxieties, feeling of responsibility. I have to do this, I have to do that, I am responsible for it. Without me, these things will not happen. As long as we are in that domain, that Vishuddha Sattva will not happen. That's why all our practices, the Karma Kanda, after that the Upasana Kanda, the Bhakti Kanda, the Jnana Kanda, all that, and all the Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, all these are slow practices, but steady practices, which create that Vishuddha Sattva in us over time, over Janmas. It's not even a few years. But if we have crossed and we are here, maybe we will. That's why the mantra, in the previous mantra, it said Sudura Dure, Iha Antikecha. It says Tad Iha Antikecha, depending upon which part of the story we are in. So the mantra says you will find it here. You will find it only inside. Don't look at outside. And that Chetasa Veditavyaha, you have to use your intellect and your prana and the chittam and all that you have to use to get that. And in order to get that, you should be Vishuddha. Vishuddhe vibhavati yesha atma. So that is what it is saying. So finally it says, finally you have to come to you. Go all around looking for it. You go guru after guru, you go temple after temple, you do all that. You have to finally, you will have to come to the conclusion that while all that can facilitate, I am not downplaying that all these are not required or they are useless. I am not at all saying that. I am saying they are all only facilitating the process, and they will facilitate the process, but the clinching the deal does not happen there. Clinching the deal happens inside. So slowly and steadily, we have to, that's why, all that dhyana yoga, all those are, there is a whole suite of practices, whole suite of experiences that are recommended in Sanatana Dharma. For example, you be upavas. Be upavas, that means reduce all your activity and then focus on the God. Upe vasati upavasa, you go near the God. That is why it's called upavas. So you do upavas, you do dhyana, you do shravana, manana, nididhyasana, you go to your guru and then get upadesha and go to a satsanga. All these help us travel the journey of Vishuddha Sattva. So mantra says, the Upanishad finally concludes saying, Vishuddhe vibhavati yesha atma. This atma is indeed available to you only when you are a Vishuddha Sattva. Vishuddhanta Karanena. That's what I have written on the title. So that is what this mantra is saying. So then we have the last mantra for this section. 10th mantra for this section. Yam yam lokam manasasam vibhati Vishuddha Sattva kamayate yamscha kaman tam tam lokam jayate tamscha kaman tasmat atmajam herchayet bhuti kamaha. Then it says, Yam yam lokam manasa samvibhati vishuddha sattvaha kamayate yanscha kaman tam tam lokam jayate tanscha kaman tasmat atmajam hi archayet bhuti kama. So here I have told it a few times in the past, so I want to also emphasize. You see here, there is a yamscha, tamscha, kamamstasmat. All those are there. That makara that you see, yamscha, it is in sandhi yamscha. If you remove the sandhi, it becomes yan. Yan plus cha, yamscha. Similarly, here it will be tan plus cha, tamscha. Kaman plus tasmat, kamams tasmat. That nakara will become makara. So this im that you see, tamscha, yamscha, kamam. Don't confuse it with the other makaras. Yam yam lokam, tam tam lokam, atmajnam. All those are different. They are, Dvitiya Bhakti Ekavachanam, whereas these are all Dvitiya Bhakti Bahuvachana. Yan, that Kaman is there at the end of the first mantra, first sentence. That's why that Yan is coming. And this Tan is referring to that Kaman only. That's why the Tan, Kaman. Yan Kaman, Tan Kaman. That's why Yamscha Kaman, Tamscha Kaman. Anyway, so that is a little bit of a Vyakarana here. So what it says, Yam yam lokam manasa samvibhati, whatever is being imagined, whatever is being desired, manasa, by whom? By Vishuddha Sattva. That is coming later. We talked about the Vishuddha Sattva. So the Vishuddha Sattva, they are the jnanis, those who are the purified minds. The person who is purified is the Vishuddha Sattva. So this mantra says, whatever that jnani, whatever he desires, manasa, kamayate, desires yamscha kaman, tam tam lokam jayate. So whatever he desires in terms of loka means the, is the state that he wants to be, the context that he wants to be, the environment he wants to be, the world he wants to be, everything you can take. Whatever he thinks manasa, a Vishuddha Sattva, and whatever he desires, yamscha kaman kamayate, tam tam lokam jayate. He will get all that. Tamscha kaman, also he will get all those that he desired. Now the question is, a Vishuddha Sattva, what kind of a desire he will have is the question. First of all, the mantra says, Vishuddha Sattva, whatever he wants, he will get. Whatever he desires, he will get. He will conquer it. Jayate, he will obtain it. He will conquer it, whatever you want to call it. And then it says, Tasmat Atmajam hi archayet. Therefore, you archayet, you celebrate, you worship. You worship and celebrate such Atmajna. Again, in Sanskrit, if you have a Jna at the end of a pada, that means knower. Atmajna is the knower of Atma. Karmajna is the knower of an act, a karma. Brahmajna, one knower of Brahman. Alpajna, one who knows little. Sarvajna, one who knows everything. So the Jna at the end means knower. Just like I said, Dha means fold. Similarly, Jna means knower. So here it says Atmajnam, one who knows the Atma. He is the Vishuddha Sattva. Tasmat, therefore, Atmajnam hi archayet. Indeed, he is indeed. Archayet, you celebrate, worship. Bhuti kamaha, one who wants to get bhuti, one who wants to get the self-realization, go and worship and celebrate a jnani. He has known it. And The jnani is now qualified with the first sentence. First sentence says whatever desires he will get, whatever he wants to attain, he will attain. So why is that the Upanishad is saying that? Because Upanishad is saying this Atmajnaha, Vishuddha Sattvaha will desire only Loka Kalyan. He will desire things for everybody's upliftment, everybody's evolution. That's why you go to him. You go to him and he will desire for your upliftment, you will get uplifted. So that is what it is saying. So in other words, in Shankara Bhashya, when it is the Bhashya actually says, what does it say? It says, there's a very nice description given as to what we should do for this person. Let me see. It was a very nice thing. So he says, Archayet, Pujayet, Pada Prakshalana. So Shankaracharya, puts additional adjectives to what is this Archayet means. He says, Pada Prakshalana, Susrusha, Namaskara Adi means etal, ... He is not telling everything. He says, wash his feet. Pada Prakshalana. Susrusha, do service to him. Namaskara, pay your obeisance to him. Now the same thing you will find in Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 4, when the Jnana Sampatana is being talked about in chapter 4, there is a shloka. Tadviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshinaha. That is exactly what this mantra is saying. Jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha upadekshanti te jnanam. They will impart that jnanam to you when you are in their mind share. See, forget about the Brahma Jnani. Let us talk about worldly thing. Let's say I work in an office and I want to progress more, not only by my promotion, by learning some good ways of doing that. What should I do? I should go to that person who is very good. I should keep company of him. I should be good to him. I should be very respectful to him. Then he will, teach us. He will, out of compassion, he will develop a relationship with us. Oh, this boy is very good. This person is very good. Therefore, we should, I think, help him, and he will tell, this is how you should do, this is how you should do, and so on. Even in a very materialistic world, that is true, na? And that's what the Bhagavad Gita shloka is saying. Tadviddi pranipatena. That's what namaskaradvihi, Shankaracharya says here. Pariprashnena. You keep asking, repeatedly inquire this. Sevaya. He says, Susrusha pada prakshalana sushruda namaskaradi. That's what Shankara Bhashyam says. So this mantra is saying, finally, I will tell you one more thing. You can't do anything by yourself. You go to a Atma Jnani. You go and then be with that person. Do Susrusha, do Seva. You will get it. Because he will desire you should be liberated. You will get liberated. Because that is what the Upanishad mantra is saying. Yamsha kaman kamayate, tamsha kaman jayate. That is why this is saying. So let the Brahmajnani think, you become a Brahmajnani, you will become a Brahmajnani. That's why you go to him. Be in his Sannidhi, be with him, and then, do things which will only benefit you. So this is the last mantra of this Tritiya Mundake Pratama Kandam Samaptam. So what we will do now is, we will very quickly, this is such a beautiful part of Mundakopanishad, as much as other parts also, but we will understand what is it that we are getting in this 3.1, Tritiya Mundake Pratama Kandaha. What is it that we are getting here? Samkshepena vayam pashyamah. In a nutshell, we will try to understand what this Mundakopanishad section 3, chapter 3, section 1 is saying. And with that, we will conclude this section. Then we have one more section for us to do. So let us see what the Mundakopanishad is saying in a nutshell in chapter 3.1. The first thing that it does is, it started by saying, Dvau Suparna Samajam Viksham Parishasva Jate Tayoranyah Atti Pippalam Swadu Atti Ananya Anashnan Anyaha Abhichakashiti. That's how we actually started this. So it first introduced two birds in every one of us. That's why it said Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakaya Samanam Vriksham Parishasva Jate. That is what it said. And in the first mantra, it said, Tayoho Anyaha Pippalam Swadu Atti. One of the bird was eating this fruit. Anashnan Anyaha Abhichakashiti. The second bird without eating was actually seeing it. Anyway, the first mantra, first shloka in this introduced two birds. And it also said one bird is eating, the other bird is not eating. Then came the second mantra. The second mantra actually said, the bird which is busy eating should actually look at the other bird. That's what the second mantra said. Samane vrikshe purusho nimagna anishaya shochati mushyamana. When it started eating, it got into a lot of trouble. Sometimes it was sour, sometimes it was very hard, sometimes it was sweet. So it got into the thick of pluses and minuses of life. Jushtam yada pashyati anyam isham Asya Mahimanam iti Vita Shokaha. But the very day it turned its attention towards the other bird. What happened? The mantra 2 said Vita Shokaha. This bird did not have any more shoka. So the second mantra said there is a need to focus on the second bird. So the first mantra introduced the two birds. Second mantra said it is important that the first bird which keeps eating should actually focus on the second bird. Then it went to two mantras, 3 and 4, shloka 3 and 4, in which it actually said what happens when you see the other bird. That is what the Upanishad told us. It said, Yada Pashyaha Pashyate Rukmavarnam Kartaramisham Purusham Brahmayonim. When the second bird started looking at the first bird, or the first bird, for us the eating is the first bird, so we'll keep that nomenclature. When the first bird started looking at the second bird which is not eating, Tata Vidwan Punya Pape Viduya Niranjanaha Paramam Samyam Upaiti. He becomes Niranjana, stainless. Paramam Samyam Upaiti. He gets into a state of Samatva, tranquility and so on. That's what the fourth mantra also said, that Prano Hesha Sarva Bhutair Vibhati Vijanan Vidwan Bhavatena Ativadi. He becomes Nativadi. He becomes Ativadi. He becomes silent. He gets tranquility. Atma Kridaha, Atma Riti Kriyavan Yeshaha, Brahma Vidamvari. He becomes Atma Kridaha. He understands the charm of this world inside. So the first four mantras has motivated us to look for the second bird, which is the Atma Sakshi. The second bird, which is the reference frame for us. That is what the first four mantras did in Mundakopanishad in this particular chapter. Then came the next two mantras, 5 and 6, in which it actually said, how do you do that? That's fine. You have to look at the second bird. How do you? It said, Satyena labhyas tapasa hesha atma samyajnanena brahmacharyena nityam satyena tapasa samyajnanena brahmacharyena. So it is told four things, that you have to use Satya, Tapas, Samyajnana and Brahmacharya are the four ways to experience it. Antasharire Jyotirmayo hi Shubraha Yam Pashyanti Yatayakshina Dosha. He gives tools. You do tapas. You observe Brahmacharya, which means you control a lot of distractions in the world. Then you will get Kshina Doshaha. You will become Kshina Doshaha. You will get Samyak Jnana. Through that, you will obtain the Satyam. That Satyam is the non-changing part of it. Yasya Tat Swarupam na vyabhicharati. Nothing. It is the non-changing thing of all of us, the constant part of all of us. Then it said, Satyameva jayate nandritam satyena panta vitato devaya. So it celebrated and it put Satya into a much greater platform with that mantra which we saw today. And we said that through that the rishis actually, reached that concept of Satyam itself. Satya dwara satyasya praptihi. So that's why in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says Satyasya Satyam. Like that description is there. So the next two shlokas said, what should you do? Tapa, Samyak Jnana, Brahmacharya, then you become a Kshina Dosha, and then you Satya Pantha, you will get. Then the three shlokas said, fine, where to look, how and where? So that's where it said, Brihachata Divyamachintya Rupam, Sukshmachatam Sukshmataram Vibhati, Durasu Dure Tadihanti Kecha, Pashyatsu Iheva Nihitam Guhayam. Look at here. If you look at elsewhere, it will be very far away for you. Look at here. Suratsu Duraha Tadihantike. So it said, where to look? Look at here. Then it says how to look. Na chakshusha grikhyate na pivacha na nairdevais tapasa karmanava. It is not using your indriyas. No. Indriyas are useful for the outside world. So it is by beyond the indriyas. Jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha tatastutam pashyate nishkalam dhyayamanaha. So vishuddha sattvena dhyayamanaha. You become a vishuddha sattva through that dhyana, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. You will be able to get it. Then today again we saw it. Yeshaha anuhu atma chetasa veditavyaha. It said, don't go elsewhere. Today, that's the first mantra we saw. You come back to yourself. You have to see it here and now and here. So it says no indriyas are needed. Only Vishuddha Sattva is required. You do, all that and you will. So in other words, while the Mundakopanishad second Kanda celebrated the importance of that Paramatma and the Paramatma Tattva, in the Mundakopanishad third, Mundaka and the first Kanda, it actually said, where do you look at it? In the second mantra, it said, of course, Hridi. It said only in the reference of the Atman is in the Hridi, Atman is in the Hridi, like that it said. And it also said, if you see it, Vidyate Hride Granti, Chidyante Asya Samsayaha, like that. Kshiyante Asya Karmani, and all that it said. Here it gave the how do you do it, where do you look at, what are the ways to know. So in a way, it has given us that additional detail. And finally, it also ended by saying that we should be able to be with the company of blessing of the jnanis also. That's also very important. You realize the importance that with all these, you also need the blessings of the jnani. That is the last mantra that we saw. So with that, it has put in some ways, it has put the know-how. It started with the two birds because it has to bring us inside us, no? That's where it started with the idea of two birds in us. And then it said there is a one bird which is not doing anything. And the second bird started looking at it, he became completely liberated. So the Upanishad is drawing us from the outside world into the inside world. That is the game plan here. It drew us inside, then gave us tools like tapas, samyak jnana, brahmacharya, etc. Then it said that do it here, become a Vishuddha Sattva, and once you become a Vishuddha Sattva, you will be able to get it. So this is in essence Mundakopanishad, Tritiya Mundakasya Pratama Kandaha. So we have one more Kanda. With that, Mundakopanishad comes to an end. There are 11 mantras in that. And what is it saying? It is saying what will happen to such a person. How his perspective will change, what kind of benefits he will have. So it is some sort of a high-level Palashruti, I will say. Palashruti not at a lower level, but at a higher level Palashruti is what the prayojana and the phala of such an exercise that we will take. With that, Shaunaka, the great Rishi, concludes the discussion on Mundakopanishad. So from next class onwards, we will see the last kanda of the Tritiya Mundaka. Next Sunday, I'll be in a flight. I'll be traveling. So therefore, it will be a flight time. Otherwise, I would have sat somewhere, and nowadays I'm thinking I should do it. Otherwise, we seem to be having too many interruptions. But unfortunately, next week I am traveling at that time. Therefore, we will not have a class next week. Hopefully, we'll have it the week after next. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Shubharatri.